Go. God level, you can tell him I said it. Level up. God level, you can tell him I said it. Level up. God level, you can tell him I said it. Level up. Level up. Level up. Go. Everything that means everything. Eyes connected to everything, and that's why. I'm in everything. All eyes on me. All eyes on everything. That means everything. Eyes connected to everything.
Whew. Hold on. Okay. I'm sorry. How y'all doing? This is things that people don't want to talk about. I'm gonna go ahead and just jump right into it. This is things that people don't want to talk about. I am God level. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm a mother. I'm a nurse. I have this podcast. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm an aunt. I'm a G. And my granddaughter is so pretty. I am everything good. Ivy, you want to go ahead and represent yourself?
What's going on, lovely people? Hi, everyone. I'm your girl, Inattentive Ivy. Can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me, right? Okay. Fantastic. You can find me on all social media platforms. I am a mother, sister, friend, a former broadcast journalist with the U.S. military. And I love talking about mental health and everything else because I am on my own journey. Y'all know I'm ADHD, so I'll be trying to corral all of these hamsters. And I share about the mental health struggles that we go through in our communities of color, because I'm gonna keep myself accountable for my stuff, and we like to keep it a buck. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, John Scott, Master Skywalker. Go ahead and represent. Master John. Yeah. I'm just like what today?
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. It's all love. John Skywalker, the Star Talker here. Lyricist, spoken word artist, martial artist, personal trainer, lover of life, student of psychology, and I'm a father who has 5 conscious, positive hip-hop albums available on all major DSPs. We're talking about Tidal, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Pandora. Just look up John Skywalker in your area. Salute.
King Newborn, you want to go ahead and represent yourself?
Peace. This is King Newborn. You can follow me on all social media platforms. That's Newborn Everything, and I am that I am. Peace, love, and light.
That's what's up. Sherman, what you got?
Sherman Vaughn. I'm known by a little, not known by a lot. It's a lot of learning on this one. So I may be sitting back putting my little dunce hat on. So we'll see.
That's what's up. Oh my God. Okay. This is gonna be new because I'm just so used to seeing numbers right about now. So, yeah, I know. I'm just used to seeing numbers right about now. I know eventually this is going to be good for the long haul, for the long run. I want to thank you all again for coming on this journey with me. Y'all are awesome. If I have not told y'all are freaking awesome. Each and every last one of y'all are awesome. Tonight's topic is how do you know you are more emotional intelligent than the opposite gender? Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Okay. We're starting with that one first.
Oh, we could. Well, I know you already got questions lined up, so let's go.
Yeah. But I mean, we can go.
Emotional intelligence. I'm sure you probably want to know the definition.
Well, I was going to work our way around to it. The reason why
you know what? Let me fall back.
So the reason why I even pitched this to you guys was because, the big one is there are myths, misconceptions, false ideas, false concepts about what emotional intelligence really is. It's a skill set, right? But when we think of it as a society, unfortunately, the gender stereotypes really cloud what it really is. And if we don't address those stereotypes, and this is extremely important, if you don't address those stereotypes, you will never get to the crux and the essence of what emotional intelligence is. First off, now, most people that looked at it, kind of higher minded, they kind of saw through the question itself. Oh, well, it's not a competition. right? But even if you entertained it, and this is part of it, you have to critically think about some of these ideas. You have to really dissect them, especially in this age of misinformation, and especially with the rise of AI, because it's going to be much, much more difficult to discern what's truth and what's, a falsehood. Right. And so this is it's a very enticing idea that, one gender is more emotionally intelligent than the other. Right. So that's why I wanted to put it out there. It's kind of a little rage baitish, but it's really just to get you to think about what emotional intelligence is, because there's too many of us walking around saying, oh, well, women are more emotionally intelligent than men. And it's like, all right, there's a few things that you have to unpack with that. And I remember hearing from what's the name of that podcast that's got Kitty and what's his name, Trip Fontaine on it?
Tonight's Conversation.
What is it? Tonight's Conversation. There was one episode where a brother was saying that he was emotionally intelligent, right? And he immediately got attacked for saying that. Now, rightfully so, because when you lead with that, there's a lot of assumptions. There's no clarity on what that looks like on a black man. And so, they came for the brother, rightfully so, because it wasn't a lot of clarity and it was just how he said it. But I started looking at the comments and I was just like, dang, so you want emotional intelligence, but you want it a certain way. And it started to look like a competition, because it's like, well, we're emotionally intelligent and you're not, but we want you to be emotionally intelligent. But, you got to sort through those. You got to sort through those type of ideas, because the condemnation it's not fruitful for the learning. Like if I keep saying everybody's stupid and I'm not trying to, elevate you and meet you where you're at, well, shoot, everybody's just going to stay stupid. So at some point you got to humble down, take your ego out of it and stop making this about how you feel about the opposite sex when it comes to this one thing, and say, what do you really want? Like for myself, I don't want people to walk around with a lack of critical thinking skills. I don't want people to walk around with a lack of empathy, because it leads to outcomes. The evidence is right there. It doesn't matter what you say. It's in your behavior. It's in your relationships. So how do you know you're more emotionally intelligent than the opposite gender? Even if you felt that way, what's the prize? What's the reward? I'm more emotionally intelligent than women. You're not saying a lot, brother. You're not saying a whole lot. Because you're emotionally intelligent, but you're single. Or as a woman, you're emotionally intelligent, but you're single. You don't have any of these healthy friendships, but you got all these emotionally intelligent skills, right? These are just examples, y'all. It's to be taken in context. If it's a skill, just like typing, just like driving, just like martial arts, there shouldn't be no ego. It's not about how you feel about it or how you look. You have these skills with an objective in mind. What are you trying to accomplish with your emotional intelligence? And then when it comes down to leadership, believe it or not, EQ rates very high for leadership skills, right? And that's not just one particular gender, right? But we're going to get into that. So who else wants to take a crack at that initial question right there? How do you know you are more emotionally intelligent than the opposite gender?
I just wanted to stop at what you said when you talked about ego. Like, you're like, it's not about ego. Like, you got to take yourself out of it. Some people don't know exactly what the flavor of their ego is. They don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know exactly what their ego consists of. Because people think their ego is just, oh, I'm puffing myself up. I'm making myself look like I'm big, right? So they don't know how to get those components of emotional intelligence, because they're not really even typed into their ego to let go of it. For instance, they, like, we think of the ego as somebody being very cocky, somebody being like, oh, I can do all of these things better than everybody else is. But what about the other side of it, like the covert side of like the intense ego, where, oh, no, nobody really cares about me. Nobody really, like, oh, I'm just this poor martyred person. You know what I'm saying? Like that side of the ego, like that's the side of the ego too, that some people don't necessarily want to look at. And how can you put yourself into the part of emotional intelligence if you're always in the space of nothing goes right for me, or do you understand if that makes sense?
You're clinging on to a label, right? You're clinging on to an identity, and you're using that identity like as a sheepskin. You're trying to clothe yourself with it, and you get rewards from that, even if it's self gratification.
Yeah. So if you can't let go of that enough to have those emotional intelligence components, like how to regulate, how to have empathy, like those things, it's like, yeah. I mean, and I'll be the first one to say that I didn't even know that was a life state that, like I wasn't able to achieve emotional intelligence because I wasn't necessarily going and like realizing the flavor of my ego, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I mean, and you have to know what it looks like in order to let it go, in order to gain emotional intelligence. So just throwing that out there. Yeah, I'm gonna shut up. Y'all know I talk a lot.
Well, I just want. Okay.
Oh, you can go ahead.
I just wanted to comment. Just because it's okay to have emotional intelligence and be single.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but also not too many people talk about emotional intelligence within the context of any other scenario except for romantic relationships. You use it in everything. You use it in your family, your parenting. But for us as a people, right? But for us as a people, we only talk about it in terms of its value and its application. We only talk about it when it comes to monogamy, being, in a relationship with somebody. When in essence, you use it in every relationship that you have. But again, it's a motivation. It's, hey, I want to be in monogamy. I want to, maintain a healthy relationship. Well, I mean, emotional intelligence has to be a part of the package somewhere in there. And any, ingredients of this relationship, is emotional intelligence here? Is empathy here? Or is it just apathetic? Or is it the facade? Yeah, so it can be applied. Yeah, it can be applied. Fellas, got anything for this right here?
I know Sherman was waiting. Go ahead.
How do you start? How do you tackle it? In my mind, how I tackled it was to learn empathy, put yourself in their shoes, and it was a nice quote that an old fella gave me. If they put their problems in a bucket and you put yours in there, you'll pick yours back up because you at least know how to start yours. You have no idea about theirs. So everybody has a story. That's how empathy clicked for me. That was first, and after that, everything else kind of came easy.
I love it.
You can get into the more intelligent. You can go higher and higher, and you can figure out their emotional scars. If you know yours, it's all a reflection. You just got to figure out your problem first before you can even maybe identify what somebody else's is. You don't know what a red flag is automatically. You don't. You got to figure that stuff out. So I think the first step into figuring out emotional intelligence at all, you got to put yourself in other person's shoes.
I'm gonna need you know how we all got our little thing up under our name. I'm gonna need you to put the wise one up under yours.
Man, put an owl up under that joint.
Yeah, please put something up under there. Intelligent, learning, student. Yeah, something.
Learning student. I like that.
Learning student. Yeah, but that's all of us too. Yeah.
Yeah. I just like to yell mine from the rooftops, because if I yell that quote unquote inadequacy first, it makes it easier to open up that door, because he's still learning like me. I am. I just want to bring that. I want to hit that first, just so you know we at the same spot. I'm no smarter than you. You're no smarter than me. But if you can help me, figure out this life thing, and I can probably help you, it's give and take. Love is serving.
It is. Okay.
I like it a lot.
Love it.
Okay. Okay. And before we move forward, just to pinch this off right here, I want to throw out that another reason why this question is sort of a misnomer is because there's a confusion between emotional labor and emotional intelligence. So a lot of the times in a dispute of some sort, there is some emotional labor that has to be done. And yes, oftentimes women signal that emotional labor, that it's actually there. And some fellas just don't recognize it, right? So this is where you have those scenarios, and this is where the gender stereotypes form, where you see that a man thinking that his wife is more emotional because she cries more, but there's not an understanding as to why she's crying. You know, it's not just, it doesn't have to necessarily be just the incident. It doesn't have to be the thickness of it. It could just be, I have to take on this and your stuff. And it's very arduous, it's overwhelming, and you're not tapped into it. You know, so yeah, here's an emotion, but you got to do something with that energy, right? But again, here's the disconnect. The priority for women is to deal with that feeling. The priority for men is, yo, this feeling is just a small part of it. In order for me to get rid of this feeling and resolve it, I need something out to solve the problems that caused it, the influences that created this. So that's where, when I talk to my brothers, they already understand that, right? We're not thinking about the feeling. It's like, okay, how are you feeling about that? And then we'll talk about that, and it's very brief. We get it there. And now we're moving to, all right, now how can we solve this so that this feeling goes away? And a lot of the times when you're talking to a woman, she doesn't know that part. And so the woman gets what she wants in that interaction, but then the brother doesn't. He feels like, well, damn, you know, all right, you got me, vulnerable, but the problem's still here. So now this feeling's going to come back. And if I bring it up to you, you're going to feel inadequate, like we didn't. So, all right, I guess I'm going to have, so the objectives are different, right? The objectives are different. For a lot of us, we're looking for a resolve, but a lot of the times it's, well, in order to get that resolved, John, you have to unpack this feeling. So there is emotional labor that's involved. And sometimes we underestimate the emotional labor that's involved. And then there's the cultural factors. Boys are socialized to suppress their vulnerability. So that may come off as less emotional or just less expressive. But then girls are, socialized to prioritize their feelings, and therefore they might seem more empathetic. But they might even neglect their own needs in that whole thing. So in truth, emotional intelligence needs both social awareness and social skills, right? And the truth is, neither gender is taught the full package, I guess you could say. There's usually something lacking on the other side.
That's what's up.
I can see
I can agree with that. Yeah, I can. Yeah, because
and I can see how you're saying that, like how like women, like sometimes I can see how you say that sometimes it's like we come at a point like, what's the emotion, and not necessarily knowing what's on the other hump, right? Until we get into our own emotional intelligence, and then we realize like, okay, feelings are feelings, and feelings mean that you have to do something with that feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to process, and that means
investigate,
and you got to come to a solution, right? Like that's the thing. It's like after you have that emotion. Yeah, it's like learning that you don't just sit in the emotion and sit in.
Right, that part.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, it's like we already know that part. For us, we already have that ingrained. And so, that's the disconnect. And then, you're 20 something, no one's taught you this, man or woman. And just to be fair to our audience members, I know that we're only talking about men and women here, but just to be fair, I don't want to speak outside of my boundary. I don't want to speak on something I don't know about, So this isn't just to exclude you guys from the conversation. It's just that, we're dealing with typicals, all right? But yeah, when you're coming up in your 20s, you don't have the equipment to communicate, hey, this is actually what I need. Like, I get that I'm having this emotion, but this is what I need. Or, John, I get that this is the solution, and you're trying to get me to just get to the solution. But, John, I just need to be at this feeling first. And that can be hard to convey that to the other side. Hey, John, you got to walk me there. You can't just tell me, hey, this is the solution. I don't know why you're still waddling here. Like, John, I'm still stuck in this emotion. You didn't do the emotional labor to get me out of that. You just told me where to go, and you're not walking me there. So disconnect. But let's entertain this idea right here. If women are naturally better with emotion than men, who actually benefits from this idea? Now, this isn't about truth or false. This is about critical thinking. Think about the belief. These are stereotypes, and they can be true or false, just like opinions. This is why I don't like dealing with opinions, because they could be true or false. And the minute you say an opinion, I can just automatically go, well, it's false, and dismiss you. right? So if it's
Okay.
an idea, if it's a stereotype, right? The stereotype can be true. The stereotype could be true. So something like this, if women are naturally better with emotion than men, who benefits from this idea? It's just to get you to think about the outcomes.
Okay.
So, who first?
Nobody.
That part.
If it's nobody. If it's
Nobody. Who
I mean,
love
that
you
part.
like me?
let's
That
keep
Nobody.
part.
let's keep
Who
that
can
above.
sex you like
Yeah,
me?
that part.
Nobody.
It's just I don't. That's exactly how I see it. Because if you're too scarred or you're too wounded, if it's too much trauma, and you get out there and you still try to date anyway, all you do is break. Because all you know is
That's
chaos.
it.
All you know is
That's
destruction.
it.
So
That's
you gotta go through life, and you gotta look at the small details of yourself before you get out there. Just look at them. See if you don't like anything about yourself. See how you got to see how you interact, and friends help with that. They really
Man,
help with that. You
my
can bounce your
tribe.
ideas off of them. You can see who they are as people to see birds of a feather. Where are you flocking? Where are you at? You can use
like that.
everything as a mirror. You can use your entire environment as a mirror.
As a mirror.
How
Yeah.
how well do you fit into it? Does this feel comfortable? Is this healthy? It's a lot of questions that you got to go through when you got to rewire your brain when you wasn't taught right. So it's a journey. It's
You just
a
said,
hell of a hike. But if you want it, you can get it.
I'm just shaking my head because I'm like, you just said a mouthful. You just said so much. You know what I'm saying? Like in that space, because first of all, what you're saying, it means that you've got to take people who are able to take a hard look at themselves. You know what I'm saying? And let's keep this a buck, a raw ass buck. Who's looking at themselves and seeing themselves for real?
For who
You know
they
what I'm
truly
saying?
are.
For who they truly are, because especially in our community, man, it's like if you think about it, it's one of those generational traumas that became a survival mechanism to not see what was really going on with
you.
us in our community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, because you got to deal with the cognitive dissonance as living as a Black person, and it's so many layers to that. So it's almost like bro, like at the core, can we see ourselves? Can you go to your worst critic and say, hey, yo, what's wrong with me? And have them read down a list and be able to sit with that. I mean, you take away what you can, you throw away what you don't like, you take what you got, whatever, but just literally listen to it and be like, you know what, this shit could be true.
Just to piggyback just a little bit. I think that comes with example.
Me too. Go ahead.
I just really think that comes with example. Go to somebody, if you can befriend them, try. But even if you don't, if you like how their life looks, if you look behind them and you see the wife that you want, if you see the life that you want, if you see the kids that you want, if you see the structure that you want, ask them a question. Everybody likes to talk about themselves, but you have to find the right example. All you have to do is look for the example, because we know what not to look at. 9 times out of 10, it's your family.
Yeah.
Especially for people that look like us. So you got to look elsewhere. And just figure out the question to ask. And they'll just give you everything that they got. Be able to hear from her. You got to be able to listen. That's why you got one mouth and that's why you got 2 ears. Be quiet.
And listen.
And you can probably rewire this hard life that you got. But I'm sorry.
No. It's cool. Because me and Ivy, we just had this conversation about a week ago. About a week ago, we literally just had this conversation, and she was like, "Tell me," and I'm like, "There's nothing to tell you. From where I'm standing, from where I see you're moving in the right direction. Like the woman you were a year and a half ago is not the woman you are today. The growth. I want to be able to do that shit too."
But you are more. You know what I'm saying? Everybody,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look back in a year from now and be like, yeah, I did that shit. Hell, I did a 6-month check-in. Okay, how we doing? How we looking? You got that paid off. You got that paid off. You did this. You on the move there. Okay. All right. Now let's look towards the next 6 months. So at the end of the year, Another 6 month check. Okay, what am I doing? What have I done? So yeah, you got to do that to yourself. Ooh, baby,
Yeah, that's where it starts. Yeah.
man, you got to do that with yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So yeah, when you talk about who's naturally better, like who actually benefits from the idea that women are better with emotion, like you said, it's nobody
I
unless
said the
we,
world. I think I
yeah,
answered that question.
Yeah, yeah.
you
She
said the
said the
world.
I said the
yeah.
world. Women
Yeah.
are naturally better with emotions than men. Who would actually benefit from this idea? The world.
I-
I
being a
did.
woman, being a woman, I'm going to challenge you, and
Go
I'm not going to
ahead.
say that. I'm going to tell, and you know, sis,
If
right?
you
No, no, it's
listen,
fair. It's fair though.
read the
It's fair.
question. Read the question. If
Okay,
women
yes,
are
are naturally
naturally
better
better with
with
emotions
emotion.
than men,
Yes,
who would actually benefit from this idea? The world.
we're better with expressing emotion
Okay.
than men, right?
Okay.
But are we like, okay, I'm gonna put myself in this,
Go
right?
ahead.
I am an
Go
emotional
ahead.
cat. Y'all know who I cry at the drop of a dime, right? I
So
am,
do
and
I.
I use just because
Okay.
I cry at joy, I cry at sadness, I cry at everything. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And before I used to be a lot more closed off, but and I realize now that I can open that because of the fact that I am becoming more intelligent with the way that I express my emotions.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
It's a difference because I mean,
yeah.
back in that time where I was like, I have emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, I will, I'll always put myself out. I will always put myself out. I'm not gonna lie to you. Until 2, 3 years ago, I used to make everybody responsible for my emotions, right? I used,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Like that's a thing. And the thing is that like sometimes if you get someone who is unhealed, I'm not just going to say just women, but women who express themselves in a feminine way. All right, we'll go there. All right. It's like we'll have these emotions and we don't know that on the other side of it that there's necessarily a way to express them. There's a way to express them that does not close ourselves off from everybody else, if that makes any sense. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's a way that if I am angry or something like that and I'm just I'm scaring my kids. You see what I'm saying? If
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to deal with my emotions. So my thing is that I've learned that yes, I have my emotions, and women do. We have our emotions. Our thing is do we know how to process them? Do we know how to express them in a healthier way? On the
Okay.
other side of that, brothers,
Mm-hmm.
you guys might be able to actually come to an expression in a more leveled way, but y'all don't necessarily express them.
Right.
That's the
Right.
problem.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
you understand what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
so it's like who is naturally better, who benefits? Really, if nobody is really getting to the healthy expression and action of the emotions, then who is really benefiting?
That part.
I'm gonna shut
That
up because I
part.
talk a lot.
That
I'm gonna shut
part.
up because I talk a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, again, if you're a woman, right, you got again. I mentioned that word emotional labor. If it's always on the woman to do it, you
Mm,
don't think that leads to emotional fatigue? Come on now. You're
man,
not
tell me
proud and
about it.
Yes.
happy to do that shit all the time. So let's not cap. All right, let's not cap. On one end, it's like, okay, she's dealing with the brunt of it. And on the other end, he doesn't get to experience any of that. And so you're weakening one, and in the other, you're overwhelming. So I mean, when we're talking about the goal here, again, this is not about ego. It's not about, oh, well, I'm a man, so I fit that. Okay, and keep going, right? And you start to realize what, okay, in the absence of a relationship, again, with yourself included, in the absence of the relationship, it's kind of vain, right? But I'm actually going to go in a different direction with my response here. I'm going to say
Okay.
that traditional power structures benefit. And here's why. When I say
Woo.
traditional power structures, we're talking about machinery. We're talking about patriarchal systems, and these are systems that promote the idea um, that keep women in caregiving roles, the educators, the nurses, the therapists, the teachers, right? And that excludes those women from, the traditional leadership positions or the decision-making roles. And then you think about the men in power. It benefits the men in power because they can avoid the emotional labor. So again, let's think about these hierarchies, right? the higher up you are, the less you have to deal with the employees. And, just from one leader to the rest out there, our job is to deal with the people. Leaders deal with the people. We connect with the people. But the men in power don't have to necessarily deal with people that's at the lower levels. And so you could just pawn that off or delegate that to somebody else. You're a billionaire. You don't have to talk to nobody. Oh, yeah, let me throw a pizza party or throw a ball for my employees to show them how much I appreciate them. But I'm not going to actually say, so how are you doing? How are you feeling today? Because that's the mark of, oh, you know what? I noticed that, you've been underperforming the past 6 months. Everything okay at home? Are you want to talk about it? That's emotional labor. That means I have to come down and really connect with you on a human level instead of just looking at these numbers. All right. Capitalism benefits. You got to think about the industries: healthcare, education, service jobs. All of them require emotional labor. And so when these fields are dominated by women, you can also kind of tinker with the pay because they're all kind of aggregated in this area. All right. And then you keep perpetuating this gender trope that women are naturally nurturing. And so you can just pay them less for essential work because they're naturally good at it. And then you also got to think about the families, right? In families, women become burdened with being default therapists and being default mediators, default caregivers, and the free labor sometimes goes unrecognized because they're naturally supposed to be that way. These ideas are more harmful. They're more harmful than they are healthy. And then, it limits both genders. Men suffer because we're discouraged from the emotional expression. And so that leads to higher rates of isolation and then mental illnesses. And we were just talking about suicide ideation and suicide. You're congested, bro. You got all these emotions and you ain't letting them out, but you don't have permission to either. And you don't have the skill set to do it because your whole life you've been taught that women deal with all that. You don't deal with that. And then in this age, the story changes because here, if you're my age or if even a little bit older, right? If you're my age or a little bit older, the stories change. Oh, now you got to be emotionally available after 20, 30, 40 years of being told that you're not supposed to, so now the script just switches and now you're overwhelmed and emotional and incompetent and feeling insecure. And you're not feeling like a leader anymore because the rules changed, but they didn't change. You just weren't well equipped. So let's move on to the next question. Matter of fact, let's kind of jump around, kind of know we kind of.
I love it. John was ready for that.
Man, he was.
Man, we learning.
If emotional intelligence is just human intelligence, why do we keep gendering it then?
Who was we?
As a society, because you have gender roles because everybody agrees to them. Got to remember, consensus is the word. Consensus is the word.
I'm not gonna say I agree. I think we were all programmed in that area. We were all programmed in that area. That's it.
Who programmed you? Who programmed you?
Society. The motherfuckers they run this.
Say more about that, because society is such a broad.
It is. I'm just saying the peoples that run this shit program that. This is why moms go out and buy their girls baby dolls. We're getting them prepared already, and get your boys a little game. We're getting him prepared to be unavailable. What happens when a little boy gets the game? He goes in the room and closes the door, and he's on the game. He is not even there. He is busy. He's playing the game. But you got the little girl with the baby doll in the house and the bottle and
she playing house. She marrying house.
She's literally serving, and she's serving everybody in that emotional house. In that
nursing, right?
Tea time. Come get this tea. Now you got the groceries.
Can we have a tea party? Can I serve everybody? Can I give everybody a little tea and crumpets?
Yeah. And what do we find for our boys? Action figures.
They destroying dump trucks.
Boys.
All right, so the parents are doing it. We as parents, we do that.
It's not just
My
parents. I
God.
mean, marketing does it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like
Okay.
you're
Yes.
gendering. You're literally like you're marketing, like like these things that are
Oh,
rough and tumble. You know what I'm saying?
okay.
Or you're like the let's just talk about the beauty industry, multi-million-dollar industry, because you're trying to be more
Millions.
beautiful, because you're trying to do what? You're trying to pick up a family so you can nurture. You know what I'm saying? Not
Okay,
Yes.
just
yeah, that's
not
how they
just
market it. Yeah,
you know what I'm
Walt
that's how they
saying? It's
Disney.
market it.
like
Uh,
yes, I mean it's you've got every facet. Every facet
mhm.
is
It's
literally
programming.
yeah, it's all
Mm. Walt
yeah.
Disney. Find you your knight in
Girl,
shining armor and run off into the sunset. What happens after that?
Mm.
That's when
girl.
the real work begins. Nobody
It
told us
is.
that shit.
And I'm gonna tell you, ooh, I know who's programming. It's Western society that's programming it. And the reason why I say that, right, is because I literally did a paper in college, right? Or I didn't do a paper. I read an essay, and the essay was talking about like the Disney girl, right?
Mhm.
About how like you had all of these outside cultures, places that like they put more importance on what it is that you could do in the society. You know what I'm saying? Like to collect to add to collective society. But then when Western influences started to come into those countries, like Somalia, Mali, like those different Somali, like the Samoan countries, things of that sort. Like they were like, oh, I need to look like the girl on the TV to get the life of my dreams. You understand? So
Mm.
Western influence had. In fact, let's just talk about what like Samoa. In Samoa, they are just like a sturdier build of people, right? When they started seeing Western images, all of a sudden, Samoan girls wanted to go on a diet. They wanted to bleach their hair. You
Okay.
understand? So
The
we can go the
programming.
Western standards of programming
Even
probably are the ones that are gendering emotional intelligence, because if you think about the Western standard of what's in a home, it's a man and a woman. A man is in this role, a
2.5
woman is in this
kids,
role.
a
White picket
white
fence.
picket house. She's
You
a
go to
stay-at-home mom, and he's the head of the household, and he's running everything. And all she do is serve him and the kids, and keep the
and
house
nobody
clean, and cook
and
dinner,
nobody's talking about
and wash clothes.
intelligence, because it's not important. You just got to
Yeah.
raise kids. You see what I'm saying? Go to work, have a duty, come home. Like nobody's talking about that. So that's why stuff is being gendered. I just thinking. Okay, I'll shut up. I talk a lot.
And women are just basically saying we're just more than that. We're more than that. Don't stop putting us in this little box. Oh, you're supposed to be a mom and have kids, and that's what you're supposed to do. We're more than that. That's it. That's all right. Go ahead.
Our society believes gender stereotypes are useful, though. So, do you? And how do they help with understanding how we process emotions? Since everybody continues to use them.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Over here?
Oh, yeah.
Over here? Do we use it
wait,
over
no,
here?
not here. No.
Oh,
But we're
okay.
still talking about the society at large, right? Because that's where it came from. We're like society, but we are a part of society, so we are taking some accountability of our programming.
That's to maintain the
You
control.
don't say again.
Maintain control.
Maintain control.
Maintain control. When you control what a man and a woman believes, you control that man. So if you got that woman believing that she's supposed to be doing this, she's supposed to be doing that, that's control. Like even with a man, it's control. That's it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
like they don't want women leaders. They don't want real women leaders. They don't. They will allow a few to get through the door to satisfy our. But it's control. It's control. How do they help with understanding how we process emotions? Do they?
They're stereotypes.
Yeah.
Why do we have stereotypes? Why do we have opinions?
We have opinions because we're autonomous people.
Okay.
Well, I think opinions and stereotypes can be measured, and
Okay.
in due time. I would say in the next 5 years, all of the numbers will be on the table. We will have most of life's experience measured when it comes to man versus woman and stuff like that, and we will wholeheartedly put this to bed. we'll put all of this, all of the stereotypes and all of that to bed.
Mhm.
I don't really. That's the only direction I see everybody understanding, because it seems if you try to tell what worked, somebody can just say that didn't work for this person. A lot of people go towards the exception of the rule. We talk about the majority. What are we looking at? Are we going down thinking this way, or are we going up thinking this way? I know which direction we're going. The numbers tell it and the people tell it too.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see it every day with everybody that you talk to. If it's mostly negative, where do you think we're going?
Mm-hmm.
And I know for good and god dang on sure, I hear nothing but negative. Of course, right now we went through a disaster, so emotions ain't too high. But it was that before this. It was that before COVID. It was that before a lot of things. Because emotional intelligence is probably 3 or 4 years old. It became a hot word, a trigger. Something like submissiveness. That word became a trigger. And they use it against us.
Who did it?
So human intelligence is just human intelligence. It's the
Mhm.
same thing as common sense. You can take it all the way down as far as you want.
Oh, wait.
But it's for people understanding basic
Okay.
sides of what are. Just if we gotta, it's a lot of reading into things that we gotta do, and a lot of people don't even want to read these days, because you gotta read into the stereotypes. How did they work in society?
Mm.
How did they work? It's just when you see something, ask how it worked. When you see that opinion, fact check it. It's just always double backing, as opposed to trying to be right and say what you think is right, because that's how you stay stuck.
Mm-hmm. You have to be
Try to learn.
open to
Try to
learn.
learn. Yeah, just even if
You got, but you already said that. You
Yeah,
got to be
and
open
you've
to
heard
learn.
because you've heard 2 + 2. You've heard it a
Yeah.
million times. Everybody knows exactly what that is. But if somebody tries to tell me, hey, I know what 2 + 2 is, I'm still gonna listen. You stop learning, you die.
That's
So
it.
when you think you know everything about anything, you've already lost.
I'm gonna ask a question that's not have anything to do with this podcast right now to you, Sherman. Where are we at it?
Chaos.
Okay.
It's on the TV, it's in the music, it's on the radio. We speak about it constantly.
Okay.
It's nothing but problems. It is nothing but problems. And I know for an absolute fact, this can be fact checked. You can look this up in any book, any internet.
Oh, yeah, we see it. We see it. I see it.
And this is the quote. You get the mind of the woman, you get their race. Let me tell you this. If before we got, pardon my French, if before we got some ass, you told me as a woman to a man that you have to read every page of destruction of a black civilization, I know every page. I'll know every chapter. I'll know every sentence. It's about requirements. If you come up with rules and everybody does it as a collective, we all win.
Order.
Values, moral compass, order. Where are we at? Because I don't see anything but this direction in every facet of every part of life. But it's slowly going down, so it looks like a fun ride. It looks like a roller coaster. It looks like something that you want to be on. We're not going the right direction. With how we think, with how we move, and with how we speak to each other.
Mm-hmm. What's the solution?
Love. You have to understand how to create a safe space. Unconditional love is the hardest thing to get to, because you got to look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of do that throughout life. Because if you do it all at once, it'll overwhelm you. Because you think it's nothing but flaws. But if you change your perception, everything starts to benefit you. It's crazy how if you just change your mind, how the world looks.
Okay.
You got to come up with something, because we're not going in the right direction. So to fix it, figure out what love is. Figure out what example that you like to look at. What do you want to be? Because there's somebody out there that's done it. We ain't done nothing new under the sun. You can always find who you're looking for. He right there. You just got to look as opposed to looking at what you think the word is supposed to be
Mhm.
for everybody else. Can't do that. Because you're not going to make me call you a they, them. You're not going to pull me into their world. I'm going to call you your name. And if you do not want to do that, we don't speak. So our worlds will never collide. Even though I think you are important and whatever you would have said would have been. It's enough chaos in the world and we don't need no more.
Mhm.
That's where I'm at.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I just wanted him to do his thing, and he did it. That's it. Go ahead. Put something up under your name, Sherman. Put something up under your name, please. Hey, thank you.
I just wanted to be good.
I love
What about
that.
you, King? Do you think gender stereotypes are useful?
Depend on the intent.
Okay.
Very useful. Depend on the intent. Depends on who's the person trying to manipulate said group, community.
Yeah.
Be very useful. But like Sherman said, at some point, human intelligence is going to kick in. You only can be able to take that so far dealing with gender and stereotype. Just like the trigger word for me is peace. Even when I tell myself, all right, peace, now it's time to implicate an attentive ear. So that means just shut up and just listen. Learning more and more to hear the undercurrent of what's really being said versus what's said to me. And by doing so, it helps me have emotional awareness of what's really taking place and what's really going on. And it helped me build a little bit more within a conversation and sometimes still shut up and just listen. You know, let them air all the way out, get it all out. Listen a little bit more and see what's left.
Yeah,
at that particular point, you might find out it didn't have nothing to do with me in the first place. It had nothing to do with me in the first place. But to continue to try to, because from a positive standpoint, what would be the end result for having gender stereotypes, period? What would be the gain other than commerce? What would be the other gain? Because the more I keep you separated, that means that I got not just personality, not just perspective. From an ideal standpoint, I got you leading with one.
Control.
As long as I keep you over here, you ain't even trying to figure out what's going on over there.
Yeah.
But yet you steady spin yourself while I'm by myself. Like you said earlier, John, having emotional intelligence is a relationship that you have to do with yourself. Like Miss Ivy said, practice looking in the mirror. It was a song called Practice Looking Hard. Yeah, take a hard look at yourself. See what that look like. Deal with you first. Before you call yourself feeling like I have the healed answer for everything I heard. And I can also tell gender and even race how they supposed to be. It ain't gonna benefit nothing because you still won. However you do it, you still won. Most time people don't want to hear what you got to say unless you be able to show them something. Like Sherman said, well, when I look behind you, you married, you got kids, you got a house, 2 cars, maybe a truck, a nice lawn that's been cut every 2 weeks or something. Okay, where you work at? Oh, really? You going picnics? Damn, hold on, bro. Let me analyze this for a minute. But we too far in between. We separate. So even when we do come across quote unquote a family or a couple or parents that are like that, you've been bombarded with all the negativity to help you understand that I'm right with what I'm saying. I'm right. I don't care what the next perspective is. I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll never get to see the married couple. You never get to see the guy that after he leaves his 12-hour job, or a woman leaves her 12-hour job, or 16, she's doing a 4 and 3, she comes home and she leaves everything at the door and she automatically steps in to her role in the home front or his role in the home front. Because they know this is where I got to make sure this is nice and tight, as well as how I am on the job, busting my butt for a raise. I'm trying to get a raise in the family. Well, how do you do that? Make sure everybody is on the same human intelligent level versus that it's a, well, I worked harder than he ain't brought it. What we really trying to do here?
Mm.
So unless you're talking about commerce, it has no real use technically. I'm just saying technically. But as long as I can keep y'all pinned against each other, oh, I got a solution for that. Just buy this, $5.99. And if you're a female, I can get it to you cheaper for $2.99. Now you mad because now I done created a whole nother, I done threw the whole current off. I'm only saying this is what I see. But I also try to implement more cases where I control not just my tongue, but also up my ear, so I can have an attentive ear to really hear what's being said, not just in society, but even towards me. How am I really moving for real? You understand what I'm saying? So I mean that's my, I ain't gonna say understanding because I'm past that part. That's my comprehension of it.
Okay.
All right. So I know we're demonizing stereotypes here, right? But this is the brain's natural tendency to be efficient. So cognitive efficiency, it's a cognitive shortcut. All right. It's a cognitive shortcut. It tries to condense complex human behaviors into these predictable patterns. So if you can assume that women are nurturing, it might make it easier to assign them caregiving roles, right? When there's a problem of who should do it. And then it creates these quick shared expectations of each other so that when we're interacting, it kind of just clicks in. You're not kind of stalled. You just get into character, right? And then historically, it's been a reinforcement, right? So many cultures have evolved based on those physical differences, right? So this is childbirth versus warfare. And you falsely link those domains, those activities to these emotions. Like, okay, in order to operate in these spaces, you got to be emotionally conditioned for this. You know, you can't be a boxer and you have all this emotion. You ain't gonna win no fights, right? So they've been useful. They have been useful. But of course, they come with side effects. You know, they do distort emotional processing. It doesn't make us as precise, right? So men, therefore, are expected to suppress their vulnerability. They're supposed to solve problems over sharing their feelings. And we know what happens with that. And then with women, you're supposed to be the emotional caretakers. You're supposed to prioritize other people's feelings over your own. And that leads to things like burnout, even feeling guilty about being angry or being labeled irrational when you were really just being assertive. And you know, when these stereotypes seem true, or they can seem true, because of what's called self-fulfilling prophecies, right? So if boys are told men don't cry, they'll suppress their tears and it's going to look like it's innate. So they're going to do the thing first, and then everybody else on the outside look and say, oh, see, boys naturally don't cry. Boys are not supposed to cry. So you're confirming it after the fact, right? So it's useful in the sense of, yeah, it's a quick way to get to this, right? They once have helped organize societies, but we're learning as we go along that they're causing more harm than good.
Breaking up.
Ooh. Mic check.
You're breaking up.
Still breaking up? All right, I'm gonna just move on to the next one.
Oh my God.
No, you're good. Ooh,
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. Oh, you're frozen too. God level. Okay, I think you might be good now. But that's a good one though.
But say,
Nobody.
Okay.
oh,
You
Uh-oh. You must be having Wi-Fi issues. Okay. Oh, Mr. Debonair popped in. Suppressed tears turn into unanswered pain and anger. That's
yeah,
interesting.
technical difficulty.
Yeah. I know she'll be back. So for
let's
this
say,
question is
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, there
It
we go.
just,
no
I
problem.
don't know what happened.
It just popped out for a second.
I did.
Technology.
Yeah. So is it innate, learned, or both? I think it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. Because I honestly believe
It says
that a
we are
person.
currently experiencing issues with the swapping of streams.
Oh,
The feature has been temporarily disabled. We apologize for any inconvenience.
oh, okay.
I don't know if you all got that or not.
Nope, not a bit. Not a bit. Okay.
Yeah, StreamYard is having some problems right now.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Yeah.
but yeah, you said it's both. You said the
I
rest
said
of
that it's.
you.
I said that. Oh yeah. I said it's both. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. You can circle back around. Say it's both because.
No, I was just saying. I think it's both because I think that when we come into this world, that we have a capacity for open emotional intelligence, and then what happens is that we get all those societal downloads, our family downloads. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's where I think that emotional intelligence can be learned as well as unlearned, if that makes any sense. So I think that's why I think it's both. Yeah.
All right, and who was? Yeah, Sherm, you also agreed.
I did.
Care to expound?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's both. I think everybody kind of has a moral compass when they get to a certain age to know what's wrong from right. And your environment, everybody around you, everything that you learned from, everything that you saw that you liked, what you thought was swag, what you thought was cool, what you thought was crazy, everything. It just shapes. It shapes. And when you get older, you get deeper. You try to go deeper into that thought, to the thought process of you, and then you kind of try to look for what was wrong and what was right whatever age that happens and stuff like that. You just keep growing and you keep getting better. The journey of life. So yeah, I definitely think it's both. Because I never think you leave this world stupid.
King?
What's that chop?
That's
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is. I want to say both. The reason why I say both, answer this pretty quick. I'm sorry. From what I understand, the purpose of life is to experience it. Period. Just experience it. If by chance no one set boundaries, rules, regulations to you upon you as a child, you would just keep on trying everything. You would stay curious about everything. I mean everything. And at some point you'll run into something that oh, that hurt. I'm bleeding. What am I gonna do about that? So kind of think it's both. Some of it's passed down, some of it is just, pure consciousness through your learning experience. Period. That's it.
All right, and I'm gonna say also with you guys that it's both. So something to consider here is, all right, so when we say innate, we're talking about genetic and biological factors. So yeah, I can see some people born with higher sensitivity compared to others. I can see, temperament playing a role. The infants even shown, early differences in emotional reactivity. And then there's things like autistic spectrum disorders, right? Conditions that can affect your cognitive empathy, your ability to read emotions. Not necessarily the feeling of emotions, that's the affective empathy. It doesn't necessarily impair on that, but brain differences, right? But I think it's largely learned, right? So we're talking about cultural and social training. We're talking about instances of trauma and adaptation, right? I think that there's also the consideration of neuroplasticity. There's things like mindfulness meditation that can strengthen your emotional regulation. And I think there's also a variable of power and privilege here. So women are pretty much forced to learn empathy, right? In this society, it's kind of forced, or it's prescribed. It's heavily prescribed, right? And then men in power, of course, tend to neglect emotional intelligence. And then you got to think about marginalized groups too. Some of us just don't have time to learn. Part of it, if it's just a skill like anything else, like leadership is a skill, and even though it's a skill, it has all these sub skills that make it what it is. If you don't have opportunities to exercise those skills, you're not going to develop that leadership ability. It's like, a lot of men out here want to be leaders in the household, but you've had no training, no conditioning, and just, again, being a man myself, being a leader myself, I'm looking at that and I'm like, no, you don't get to be ranked up here. You don't get to put that on while I have to do all this. That's not fair. There's an injustice there, right? So I think that this is largely learned, and we don't need to kind of cast it off to just genetics and neuroplasticity, although they do get some honorable mentions as, for setting the stage, right? So we're going to leave this off with our last question right here, and we're just going to make this more of a, I guess, like a charitable type of thing. What is one small habit anyone can start today to actually get better at handling emotions without gender getting in the way?
I'm going to be quiet because I am curious.
Just, look at your own experiences, right? Just look at your own experience, and just that one thing that worked for you or works for you, so that you can say, all right, hey, this is not a gendered thing. I'm actually looking at it like this. Like, this is the one thing that I practice and it works for me. So what's that one thing for you guys?
Well, mine is I always look at things as my square. I just never try to get rattled off of my square. So if I know, I already know the ADHD, I know that thing. It just makes you hypersensitive towards emotions. Well, at least that's what it does for me. So I know if I go too far left, that was over time. So, but that's how I always looked at it. I never really wanted to be knocked off of my square. When it was in high school, it was of course just never not being cool. You don't want to be the crazy kid. You don't want to be the high head. You don't want to be talking crazy. It's a lot of things that you don't want to be in high school, obviously, but you just try to stay the cool guy. And I think that has evolved into me staying on my square. So that's where I've always been, pretty much.
All right, you guys? King, Ivy?
I'm curious.
Okay. King, are you curious too?
One small thing. I don't know, man. Peace is my trigger word. So peace and listen. Those are my two things. But that's for me. What I have learned, this is a part of small meditation for anybody. If you feel like you finna spike, just take like 3 seconds, inhale through the nose, exhale. Just give it a second, just give it a second. Let it breathe. Let it, let how you may have received it might not be how it was being, given to you. You know what I'm saying?
So it sounds like the goal is to not assume or react. That sounds like a strategy for you to not react. So okay.
Yeah. Just inhale through the nose, out through the mouth. Give it a second, and
all right.
And hell, to be honest, even after you breathe again.
Okay. 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 All right. So it's almost like, all right, so this is like an emotional regulation technique. So yeah, that helps with better handling your emotions, because often we're just reacting. It's like, let me know how you feel so I can feel about how you're feeling. And then when you have a feel about how I felt about just how you felt, then I'm gonna give a feeling about how you felt about how I felt. And we're just tossing around all these emotions. We just reacting. So King is just saying, hey, sometimes just breathing, you don't have to be so quick to react. You can just kind of up, hold on. Anger, I see you. Just sit. Just let the air come in. Cool it down. All right. Are we still curious, Ivy?
Nope, I got one. I just wanted to hear you. So biggest thing that I learned once I started learning about who I was, I realized that I could start to put myself in somebody else's shoes, right? So when it came to Mr. Debonair, yes, gotta love it. Okay. So one thing that I started to do to really try to get better at handling other people's emotions, not necessarily mine, in order to handle other people's emotions is have the empathy of putting myself in someone else's shoes. Like actually sticking myself in somebody else's shoes, because a lot of times my ego would make me look at it and be like, man, that's not necessarily, that's not necessarily a worthy crash out, you know what I'm saying? But if I wasn't putting myself in the shoes of that other person, I wasn't understanding how they were having those emotions. And before, I really couldn't. I am ADHD as well, and sometimes I can tune into the fact that somebody is having emotions, but I'm not aware of how it's affecting them, if that makes any difference. So putting myself, like literally putting myself in somebody's shoes and saying, this is the circumstance that happened to you. This might be where your mind is. And then saying, okay, I see where that is. And then actually asking questions and getting curious as to why they feel that way. Yeah. Empathy and putting myself in somebody else's shoes. That's what helped me getting better at handling outside emotions. Like,
I want to ask you a follow-up question, because it's a pretty clear textbook recommendation, right? And it seems so easy to just say it. How does one even get to that place if they have some emotional barriers that's kind of keeping them away from it? Because there's a confidence, right? There's kind of there could be a fear of, if I empathize with this person, that means that I'm going to have to really be vulnerable with this person in a sense and really care about them. And oh my gosh, what if they put stuff on me that's too heavy? Like, how do you address that?
The wisest thing that somebody ever told me is to be a fully functioning adult, you have to understand your own internal boundaries and create your safe space for yourself. Okay. So if you create a safe space if I create a safe space for me to be everything that I am, all my mess, all my good, all my light, my shade, my dark, all of it, then that means that I can have this container. I created this container for myself and my bullshit, so that way I can actually sit down and boundary myself and listen to what somebody else has going on. Does that make any sense? Like I'm able to finally sit separate myself from somebody else. Like my problem used to be I wanted to try to solve everybody's problems. Now I realize that I don't have to solve everybody's problems, and that I have this safe space, and that I can sit back and listen, because at the end of the day, interactions with another human being is about connection. But if I can't hold myself in a space, do you understand? I'm like, if I can't hold safety for myself and realize that this person has their own autonomous reaction and has their own autonomous thoughts, then I couldn't sit down and listen to everybody else. I was just letting everything breathe in. And sometimes you get, if that makes any sense, you know,
it does.
Yeah, because sometimes I don't know if I'm necessarily explaining it in a way that makes sense to other people, but for me, that's what was important. Since I'm the safe space for myself, I can listen to somebody else's stuff, and I don't have to take on their emotions. I don't have to think that I'm this bad person. Like, I don't have to do any of that, because they're their own person. They're just having a human experience. And if I have my own human experiences, they should be able to too.
Oh my God. Calvin Hobbs. I have no idea who you are.
Oh, somebody's on.
Brown Eyes has joined. Thank you. I am in the middle of a podcast. Oh, did I turn my stuff on?
I was like, who is he talking to? We didn't know what you was talking about, girl.
All right, my recommendation is pretty straightforward, and I'm actually going to do it tonight. An emotion journal, a daily emotion journal. So, I was playing around on my iPhone here. It's $1,200 piece of equipment, and I found this mental health icon. I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Let me go look at this." And it was just serendipitous because it was at the right time. It was not too long after we had a podcast related to emotional intelligence. So just looking, I was like, oh, mental health. Okay, that's one of my words. And I scrolled through it, and it was an emotional journal, right? And so it allows you to capture a feeling that you're so. But now I will say the lexicon of emotions, you know, there's a limitation there, right? But what I really appreciate about it is the question it asks is, how did you feel about your day overall, right? Now you can do moments, right? Me and the wife got in an argument. All right, after that argument, I'm putting that in my phone, and then I'm going to give it a context. Had argument with wife about pop, right? Worried, stressed, might put finances, right? The idea is I am aware of how I felt about and even more so, I might even give it a feeling if I didn't already. So what that app does for me is it just simply makes me aware, and it makes me accountable because I'm aware of the feelings that I had throughout the day, and even giving an overall rating for my day. So it starts off as this. It could be neutral, pleasant, unpleasant, right? And it goes extremely unpleasant to very unpleasant, or to very pleasant, right? And so I have no expectations about how I want my day to feel or go. It's just whatever comes up, I just say, all right, hey, this is how I'm feeling. I'm just giving it a name. I'm recognizing it like it's somebody in my house. You know, when somebody comes into your house, you want them to say something, right? Hey, anger's here, or anger dropped by today. Why? My son didn't clean the toilet when I told him 6 times already. Or somebody tried to finesse me at the grocery store today. It's recognizing through this app, and you keep a chart, right? So I've been doing this since last year, and King was there when I first pitched it to him and Saba Diama. Shouts out to Saba. This was December, not last year, but the year before. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to dedicate a whole year to capturing all of these emotions this year. And I want to see how I felt, because I can actually say, how did I feel about 2025 objectively? Not I think, because a lot of people be faking the fun. Objectively, I have the journal right here that says, hey, in essence, there's more orange and yellow and green than there is purple. So I'm looking at all these points, and then it tells me, John, you logged 394 emotions for the year of 2024. It's like, wow, I wonder how many I missed. I wonder how many I missed. Do an emotion journal. It's so simple. It's less than 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes. It's not even a whole workout. It's not even a whole workout, but it is a workout.
Okay, not a workout, but is a workout. I kind of thought that this was a good question. I don't know if we even have the time, but is reforming to being nonchalant healthy to regulating emotions? Because I had this question once I started, feel the emotion but neglect the reaction.
Okay. Okay. Reaction is one thing, but you can respond. You can it doesn't have to be emotional reaction. Reaction implies that you primed yourself to respond that way. All right. So it's just quick. It's just, hey, I don't have to think about this anymore. From now on, when there's situations like this, respond like this, right? We program ourselves for a reason like that. It's not a bad thing. You just got to be aware of why it's functioning that way. But you can feel the emotion and express a response. You can say, hey, I felt this, regulate it a little bit, and give you a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. Like I learned that in my parenting. If there is a way, John, to let them know that I'm upset without having to scream, raise my voice, that's been one of my, as a father, that was like the big one. And then a father with PTSD had a lot of problems with that. And being aware and having that guilty feeling. Why do I keep feeling guilty about that? Because there's a better way, John. That's why you keep feeling guilty.
I don't mean to laugh, but I recognize that. I'm sorry. I'll go ahead, finish it.
Right. So
yeah,
you can feel the emotion. Nonchalant, maybe in the face of a threat, maybe, maybe. But you don't want to be so emotionally cool that people feel like I don't know if he's accessible. Like he's so nonchalant. I don't know if he's accessible. And that used to be a big complaint about John, about 15 years ago, especially with women. It's like, I never know how he feels. And I always feel like, no, you can't know how I feel because, I don't need you to manipulate that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, hide those feelings because, if she gets a hold of them, she gonna do all this wizardry with it that wasn't intended. You were supposed to handle it, but those were just my experiences with women until I realized, okay, it's just me picking the women that's doing that.
Okay.
I'm picking the women that's doing that.
Right. That's if you don't mind, am I allowed to respond? And I got 30 seconds because I know it's time for us to end. I know. No, I'm serious. I'm gonna keep it real short. I just wanted to say, that's what some people don't get about emotions. Like, be mad, right? And find a way how to healthily express that so that you're not harming yourself or harming anybody. Be sad, but find a way how to express that. You know what I'm saying? So you're not harming yourself or hurting anybody. When I used to get angry, I used to cry. Like, it used to be kind of outwards, you know what I'm saying? Or else I would just fume, I was shut down. But now I express it healthily. If I'm angry, if it's something that needs to be addressed, it gets addressed in an intelligent way. If it's something that only I can do something about, I'm about to go to the batting cages. I'm about to punch a pillow. I'm gonna scream in a pillow. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to the chopping range. I'm gonna throw something angrily when I get in a pottery wheel. But I'm not expressing that, so it's going outward, but it's still getting out of my body. You can't neglect it because then you neglect it, it shoves down, and it's gonna come out. But I have to express it. So you don't neglect the reaction. You express it healthily. I'm done.
Closing comments?
I think I'm good.
Breathe.
Breathe. Breathe. Anyway, this has been Things That People Don't Want to Talk About, brought to you by God Level, who is somewhere in the space here. So tap in with us next week where we're gonna kind of honor the fellas on this next one. All right. So without further ado, see y'all next week. Stay safe and love somebody today, even if it's yourself. Bless up.